please stand for Madam Chairman?
Councillors, your attention please. I'm now about to open the debate on the original motion. Councillor Lee.
Thank you. As pointed out by Reform, I did actually support this one at the District Council. However, what they didn't include is we had assurances from the Labour leader that he would also push for boundary changes, and that's why we went with this option out of the two, because out of the two, the one that you've proposed is slightly better. However, what you haven't included in your speeches is the detail. So let's just talk over some of the detail. Is what you are saying with this model is that, and don't quote me on the exact figures because they change regularly, but the housing supply numbers, so the 5-year land supply, as you will know, every district, every council is responsibility for the 5-year land supply on houses and GRT sites. So under the new scheme, well, we've all accepted here that the city's full, right? The city's full, there's nowhere to build new houses, but they've still got a target of, I believe, about 440 houses. There were 2 districts, I believe, was in the region of 60 after they were increased by about 200. That's what the district of Newark was. So where are all them houses going to go? Well, they're going to go into the new areas that you're now looking at putting into the city boundary. So you're going to have more houses in the green open spaces. Now, I've sat down and looked at the maths, and off my head, I've worked out within 15 years, they would have run out of allocated green space allocation for their GRT sites and housing sites. This model will work in the short term, about 15 years. And then after that, you're going to start having the same issues that we have across Newark and Sherwood and elsewhere, that you run out of allocated green spaces. And then you're looking at rural areas where you need to build the housing in rural areas. The city are not going to be able to meet any of their housing needs because they are full. They are also band A and B. They're not going to want to build band A and B properties. They want to go up because that's the issue they have now. They have mostly band A and B properties that mean when they set the council tax at band E, because that's what we do, is actually they get less money. And that's the financial issue that they have. That's why they are looking at boundary changes. It's not for us, it's for the city to help out the city. We all accept that. But the issue we've got is this model isn't going to be picked by Labour. It's not. The National Labour government are not going to pick this model. They're not going to pick the other model. What they are hoping for, in my opinion, is they're going to argue that they're going to pick a little bit of all of them. They're going to increase the city to their built-up area. But again, that won't fix the issue that within 15 years, they'll run out of green open space allocation for their 5-year land supply and GRT site. Just on that alone, none of these models are going to work. What you would have to do is, if you wanted a true model, and I'm not saying that we should do this, but if you wanted a true model that is future-proof, you have to split the city into 2 and then half that for either of the counties to make sure you've got future land for the next 20, 30 years, future allocation for houses, future increase of council tax banding, future GRT sites, because you are going to have GRT sites a part of the new city boundary because the other 2 councils have. But where they're going to go, they're not going to go into the city. And that is the problem with any models that we have looked at for any other council, is it isn't future-proof. It's short-term proof to allow the city council or whatever authority takes over to be financially viable. I don't think it'll work. And that's why I'm arguing, and I argued at the district, is we need a proper boundary change. So we need to be told by the Labour government what the new boundaries are going to be. And then we can have a look at what the new authority is going to look like, because we don't know. Is we can argue that Gedling and Bassett Law go in, but if they're going to change the boundaries, as we believe they will do, is you could see half of it's in, half of it's out. And then with the boundaries, you could find that all your schools are in the city or the offices are in the city. And then with one of the models that I saw, this new building is going to be in the city boundaries. It means we've just lost our children's services facility. It means we need to build a new city. We need to look at the detail, and I'm happy to support this today because it was a model that is on the table and it's the better of the two. However, we need to know detail. And until we know detail, we could be voting for something today that bites us in the bum in 15 years' time. And I hope the leader will accept that and say that, yes, this is the model we're putting forward because we have to do, and it's the only acceptable model now on the table, but the boundaries don't work, the feasibility doesn't work, and the detail doesn't work. Thank you very much.
Councillor Neil Clark now to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any loudspeakers that were there. Anyway, as many people say, this is probably the most important issue to affect local government for many decades. I speak as divisional member representing Bingham West and the impact it will have on the residents and businesses in my division. I understand what Councillor Mason said about my residents, etc., but it's easier to say it that way rather than keep saying the residents in my village in my division that I represent, and so on. Bingham West is located within the borough of Rushcliffe, and so it is relevant to talk about Rushcliffe at the same time. And in the interest of openness and avoidance of doubt, I will remind you that I'm also the leader of Rushcliffe Borough Council. I've no problem flying the flag for Rushcliffe and my division. And talking of flags, I welcome the 3 flags flying outside today, representing all our communities. Any sensible person wouldn't have started from here to reorganise local government. But we are where we are, and the government has decreed criteria to work to, which unfortunately are flawed, and also they keep changing them, as we have heard earlier. I won't list them all again. Regrettably, it is majoring on financial issues solely in order to bail out bankrupt, incompetent councils. Councillor Matthews referred to the £64,000 Rushcliffe spent. That was not a waste. It was an investment in the residents of Rushcliffe because options were still needed to be considered. Quite frankly, I think Reform and Conservatives are on a similar page and against the Labour government's rhetoric and their central government bureaucrats that I think Councillor Stoll mentioned. We should be focusing on services that my residents and businesses enjoy. The government seems to forget that we're here to provide services for the residents. Rushcliffe provides many of the best services in the county and indeed the country. What is important is that the standard of those services is not reduced. That is why I do not want to see any part of Rushcliffe become part of an expanded city area. For Councillor Gowland's benefit, I always say expanded city area. I don't say not into the City Council. The City Council has a track record of failure, of closing libraries, closing leisure centres, cancelling community public events such as the Riverside Festival due to their financial mismanagement. And again, for Councillor Gowland's benefit, I always used to attend the Riverside Festival, but guess what? The City cancelled it. Rushcliffe has thriving leisure centres run by the borough, including a new one in Bingham, opened only a few years ago, many libraries run by the county. The borough hosts public events such as Lark in the Park and Proms in the Park, attended by thousands, increasing in popularity year by year. All these events would be a thing of the past if Rushcliffe was to be absorbed into an expanded city area, if the government's ambition for Rushcliffe to pay off the city's debts are realised. The overwhelming majority of my constituents and other people wider afield that I have spoken to say they do not want to be part of the city. This is backed up by around 15,000 signatures on a petition saying they do not want to be part of the city area. And on the subject of businesses, they don't want any threat to their viability, like workplace parking levy, which is a massive threat to Rushcliffe businesses, not to mention the threat of more houses being built on the Greenbelt. In the earlier stages of this process, Rushcliffe pursued a far more sensible option of dividing the geographical county into 3 councils. Rushcliffe, Gedling, Newark and Sherwood forming one, Broxtowe, Mansfield, Ashfield and Basildore forming another, with the city remaining as it is. This would have focused directly and correctly on delivering services to the residents.
You have
Sadly,
30 seconds, Councillor.
thank you, this did not gain enough support to proceed. For all these reasons, Rushcliffe Borough Council eventually took the decision in July to back option 1B, as it states in this report, which I've read, Councillor Barton, in paragraph 45. Out of the options available, this was the only sensible option for Rushcliffe to protect its services on behalf of its residents. Therefore, to be consistent with that decision and to represent the vast majority of residents in my division, I will be voting in favour of the motion being proposed today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Clooney to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some things I want to make clear first. There will be brand new unitary authorities. No one will be taking over anyone else. In April 2028, we'll have brand new councils with new leaders and new elected members. As we know, the proposal before us is for the City of Broxtowe and Gedling to combine into one authority, with the remainder of the county forming another unitary authority, as has been recommended by the Office and the PwC report. I'm not wholly against this proposal here, known as 1B. There are many shared demographics between Gedling, Broxtowe and the city. The area I represent, Arnold South, borders on the current city council in many places. We have several roads which have one side in Arnold South, Gedling Borough, and the other side in the city. As I sat writing my notes in my lounge, I could hear little John striking the hour from the council house, a sign of how close to the city Arnold South is. Many residents would consider themselves living in Nottingham and look to the city for work, leisure, shopping and entertainment. We are so well connected to the city by Nottingham City Transport too. For example, during peak times, buses travel every 10 minutes from my area to the city centre. I have some concerns if Gedling is put in a unitary authority with the north of the county. 82% of Gedling's population live within the conurbation of Nottingham, yet would be looking towards areas of the north of the county for their services, both in terms of people and place. Will the residents of Arnold South benefit from services which are being geared towards North Nottinghamshire towns of Mansfield, Newark, Worksop and Retford? For example, would the residents of Arnold South consider a night out in Mansfield instead of Nottingham city centre? Transport links would have to be much improved for this to happen, but the longer distance to travel would be somewhat of a barrier. On the other hand, would those 82% of Gedling residents living in the conurbation lose out on opportunities and benefits provided by the Southern Urban Unitary Authority? For example, would they still be within the Robin Hood network? An important consideration, perhaps the most important consideration of the reorganisation, is the provision of services. We must look at what is best for the residents and where the efficiency.
Yeah.
It's gone funny, hasn't it? Oh, that's better. So it makes sense to have similar geographical areas together, which report deems to be 1B. However, the northern part of Gedling, for example, Newstead Abbey Ward, is more rural than the part I represent, and I can see that probably doesn't belong in a unitary authority with more urban areas. So I think it would make more sense for the urban areas surrounding the current city to be under one unitary authority, with the more rural area by the city, known as city expansion. Before many members have a meltdown at the very mention of Nottingham City Council, I'd like to mention a few things. The main reason for their difficulties has been the lack of funding from the Conservative government for 14 years. Nottingham City is the 11th most deprived council, and under this Labour government's fairer funding, they have received the 11th highest government settlement and have now started to turn a corner. In the 1990s, the city's boundaries were set to be very narrow without including much of the surrounding conurbation, as we've seen in other cities, leaving the council with primarily properties in council tax bands A and B, giving the council a very low tax base. Nottingham City Council also has a large student population who don't pay tax. Whilst the students bring many benefits to the economy, the city still has much adult and children's care to fund and not much council tax to do that with. The city also provides many things to the benefit of those who don't live within the narrow city council area. Just think of the beach that has been in the Market Square all summer, which is actually free for all to attend, despite what we heard this morning, but funded by the city council. We know that the city council has had its problems, but it's really hard to solve problems with such a low tax base and insufficient funding from the Conservative government. So I urge members not to view the city council as the enemy of residents. This is an opportunity to design authorities that best serve our residents, not boundaries which support political ambitions. I will be abstaining in the vote, as I would like to see further exploration of other options, such as the expanded city border. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now calling Councillor Jodie Stoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is not a speech I have ever wanted to make to this chamber, but today I face making what at first seemed an impossible decision. Let me be absolutely 100% crystal clear from the start. I am opposed to this forced local government reorganisation organised by Labour. Residents across Nottinghamshire are opposed, and I believe this process damages the very identity of Nottinghamshire. Nottinghamshire is an ancient county with over 1,000 years of history. Yet today we are being asked to carve it into artificial units. This is deeply sad. It weakens our identity. Borough and district councils are not perfect, but they do work. People know them, people somewhat trust them, and they do deliver for residents. Yes, a unitary authority may feel simpler for residents with one point of contact. I do accept that. But make no mistake, simplification is not the same as actual improvement. This is centralisation and clearly the Labour Party's agenda to grab power, to erase local identity and dresses bureaucracy up as progress. They tell us it will save money, but at what other expense? And I'm not talking about monetary. Where are the guarantees of better services? Ultimately, there are none. What we do know is that reorganisation will cost sums of money, cause disruption, and throw staff and residents into years of uncertainty. And I have to ask, Madam Chair, will Labour, under Keir Starmer or his successor, even have the courage to face the people in 2027 for shadow elections that they would surely lose? Or will they bottle it and delay? I certainly wouldn't bet against that. Residents ultimately deserve clarity and certainty, and not further political games. As for the Conservatives on that side of the chamber, as we've already discussed, they had years to act in this council. They knew reorganisation was coming, and what did they do? Not a lot. Last week, they tabled an amendment that doesn't even meet the government's own criteria and will be voted down. Councillor Girling today then brought up some mythical new option that even his leader, Councillor Smith, was unaware of. It was purely about political optics with no substance. And now, instead of leadership, Councillor Smith shouts traitors and betrayal at Gedling councillors in this chamber and on social media. As I said earlier, that is dangerous language. Let's also be honest about reality, about the city. Many Gedling residents and Broxtowe already rely on Nottingham for work, for hospitals, for theatres, for transport and many other things. Pretending the city is some distant enemy is absolute nonsense. A strong Nottingham city is in everybody's interests. But let's be clear on this. This is not a Nottingham City Council takeover. These will be brand new authorities, new councillors, new staff. It is disingenuous to say otherwise. The real problem is division. Instead of one united Nottinghamshire, we are left with fragments. My villages of Calverton, Woodbury and Lamley are not part of Nottingham City. They are distinct villages and parishes separated by green fields with their own local identities. They should have never have been pulled into this arrangement. Yet the Labour government, with their top-down approach and their criteria, which, let's be clear, was not in your 2024 manifesto, forces this division upon the residents of Nottinghamshire and other areas of the country also. So today I face a choice. Option 1B, or I vote against option 1B. If I vote against, I walk away from the table and leave my residents voiceless. I might win some applause for 5 minutes, get a pat on the back, the social media, well done. But ultimately, in the cold light of day, it abandons my duty. I take that seriously, and therefore I will not do that. Therefore, Madam Chair, I will reluctantly support 1B. Not as any endorsement at all, not because I believe in it, I don't. But because it secures Gedling residents a voice if this does indeed progress. I will continue to fight for these villages and Gedling and Nottinghamshire to keep our identity alive even within this very flawed structure. Sadly, this is the best of a bad choice. Labour wants to erase, or it feels like Labour wants to erase, Nottinghamshire's administrative history. The Conservatives have let them. Reform have inherited this mess, and here we are today. The Conservatives could have pushed option 2 8 years ago, but again, as we've already said, bottled it. I refuse to join the shout loud protest politics that we see from some members. Thank you.
Councillor. I call in Councillor Wilmot.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak on this very important subject today. Firstly, I think it's good news if it is true that Hucknall is not going into the city. But of course, the final decision will be made by the government. And even if the whole of Hucknall is against it, the government will make the final decision. I do totally oppose this reorganisation. I do not see the point. And why is stay the same not in the recommendations? The present system is working for most councils and will the promised cost savings, the simplification of governance and improved service delivery materialise? Because evidence from other recent reorganisations have frequently failed to deliver the promised financial savings. And now we find no proper analysis was done for the cost of this reorganisation in the paper yesterday. Angela Rayner said by merging councils, 2.9 million could be saved by merging councils over a 5-year period. Now the CNN have said, after reviewing the costs of reorganisation, no savings will be made. In fact, it will cost money. And we've all been hoodwinked with this political decision. So what will happen? We know what will happen. People will have to suffer by paying more, raising the council tax to pay for this stupid reorganisation. People are already finding it difficult to make ends meet. All these proposals will cost money. Now we need independent, verified evidence that any scheme will create services of improvement, and that there is a full comprehensive consultation with the general public. Is that really taking place? And if their vote is...
Just to be clear, I'm going to talk about this later, but the County Council Network said after that BBC report, they put out a statement saying it will save money, except under particular circumstances where you make 3 authorities.
Well, we shall see, won't we? And if their vote, and the general public's vote, is no to reorganisation, it should be taken into consideration. After all, that's what we're here for, to deliver services to our community in the best possible way. As we know, each council has different needs. What's good for one area is not necessarily the answer for the others. You have to remember that. Remember, we must have no reorganisation without clear evidence of service improvement. And there must be full open consultation, not just the illusion of choice. It does seem that once again the general public are being cut out of decisions that will affect every aspect of their daily lives. And this time it's being driven, unfortunately, by a Labour government in Westminster that's forcing through a rushed top-down reorganisation of local government in Nottinghamshire with no real consultation and certainly no real evidence to back it up. This is box ticking on behalf of ministers who want to show progress without doing the very hard work of listening. Let's not pretend this is about improving services. The evidence from other areas is crystal clear. These reorganisations do not save money. They do not improve delivery. They create bloated bureaucracies that are further removed from the people we serve, and they will fail to fix the very real crisis in adult and children's social services. And I will tell you something else. The people in Hucknall do not want to be swallowed up in some faceless county-wide mega council or into a poor-performing Nottingham City. Residents want their local voices heard. They want services that are local, accountable and responsive. This plan achieves none of that. This reorganisation, if it happens, must be backed by robust, independently verified evidence and, more importantly, by the people of Nottinghamshire. I see no evidence of that at all at present. Chair, the people of Hucknall sent me here today to fight for their rights, and I will not stand by while decisions are being made over their heads, behind closed doors, and in the name of efficiency that never materialises.
Councillor, you have
We
30
are being
seconds.
asked to support decisions that are wrong for our communities. I am sorry. I will not be voting for any of this. Thank you, Chairman. I will be abstaining from this vote. Can I say also, it seems that some people are against the reorganisation, and yet you're voting for it. No, I don't know what the...
It's up, Councillor. Your time is up. Yes.
Well, we're 3 hours in, and at last a bit of reality settling now. And Councillor Clark, I'm glad you're voting for 1B, and you can see now it's the adult choice. I've got a reasonably good job at County Hall on finance, so I work on logic in my life. I've had 2 emails in all this time about LGR. Two. I had 350 for Barton Quarry. 350. I understand there's emotion. I understand people are worried. I understand people are upset. But we're adults, all of us. And I think 3 hours in, thankfully now, we understand we only have one choice, and that's B1, and I'll be voting for B1. I'm happy to vote for B1 because I was the only Reform councillor in Rushcliffe, and if it would have gone the other way and I would have been in the pool, I wouldn't have sulked, I wouldn't have backed down, I'd have gone into the city and I'd have been the first Reform person to build the city, to make the city better. And that's what it's all about.
Councillor, answer, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And although it's been a bit of a warm debate at times, few words crossing from one side to the other, but at the end of the day, we're all here for one thing. That's to support the residents of the county. And I, for one, don't like the idea of local government reorganisation. I don't like the idea that it's handed down to us. We don't have a say and we don't have any input other than what we're doing now. I'd like to think that the people out there had had an option to vote on this, to make a decision about this, not just put it on us. And I don't like the idea of said of local government reorganisation. But what is important, if it's going to happen, and it's going to happen, I'd rather us be in some control of that and have an input into where we're going. I don't want a situation where the Labour Party then tell us what we're going to do. We want to be involved in that. And so that, therefore, I've got to support the options that we've got. I think looking at the city, we're talking about the city. It might not be called the city. It might be called North, might be called South, whatever you want to call it. What is important is now is that we're looking at this and making a decision, and the city are still turning pages over and looking at, oh, we can take a bit of Gedling, we can take a bit of Rushcliffe, we can take a bit of Bucknell and expand it. That's not an option. That's not an option at all. We have to look at what we've got in front of us and work with what we've got. And then they can't turn around and say, well, yeah, we're not going along with that, not going along with that. We can defend what we are doing, even though we don't like what we do. We can defend and say it's our input. And I think that as far as looking at the comments earlier about adult social care and children's services and SEND, and the fact that a lot of funding comes from different areas, that money goes into the pot. We as a county council are here to serve all of the community, wherever they are. We have schools everywhere. We have social services working everywhere. I accept it might be needed in more areas like Mansfield, like Sutton, like Bassetlaw, needing more help and support. But we're together on this. It's our county. We look after our people. That's what we're here for. There should be no boundaries saying, oh, we pay more than that, we pay more than that. It's about what's in the pot and using it wisely to support everything that we can do for our residents of Nottinghamshire. I really do feel that, you know, the options that are on the table, none of them, to be honest, are ideal. None of them. None of them are what we want. But at the end of the day, we have to do something about what's in front of us. And I'd rather us make that decision than somebody impose it onto us. I think that is more important to be on the inside than to be on the outside looking in. So, you know, I will be obviously supporting our motion, and I think everybody who spoke for it, and hope that we move forward and accept it. Thank you.
Councillor Girling, please.
Thank you. Before you start your timer, could you just say something about the flags? Everybody clapped about it, but actually one of them was upside down. So patriotism should be patriotism. At least get the flag the right way up, whoever did that. Anyway, I think this is all premature. Yeah, we've been given a lifeline by the minister to say we can look at boundaries. Yeah, whereas that wasn't an option before. So Councillor Stoll, who's been the ambassador for looking after people that might get upset by earthy words and calls other councillors, here's your chance. You don't like what's been offered to you, here's your chance. I saw people nodding when you said you didn't like it. Reform not going like that, like a nodding dog in the car. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of you don't like these options. Yeah, but we've been given a lifeline. So here's the thing. If you want to be as old as one council, let's get together now. Let's make a motion together, all of us, and say, no, we're not going to accept any of this. We're going to look at the options about boundary changes and how that can suit and fit the best way for residents in this county. You've got the power to do that. You've got the vote to do that. Yeah, it's no good saying, I'm against it, we're going to vote for it anyway. You've got an option to change it. The minister has given you an out, has given you a lifeline. You can take it or you can sink with the options that you're taking. You know, you're saying about Arnold being close to the city. And there's lots of little places that's close to the city, and they feel that they're part of that. I'm a St Anne's kid. You know, I know what it's like being part of the city. But in them in Arnold that go to work in the city, use the transport going to the city, they pay county council tax. They get county council benefits of the services. So they've got the best of both worlds, really. Why do we want to deprive them of that? And we keep hearing it. Yeah, 8 years ago, we didn't get it through. Now, you've been told several times there was a veto allowed then. A veto. That veto got taken out for the second tranche for this. Yeah, but there was a veto. And it was vetoed by Ashfield.
Yeah.
So it's no good. Now you know. So to keep repeating that now, it's actually a lie. Yeah, it was a veto. It stopped it happening. We wanted it to happen, but there was a veto that was allowed to happen. So I applaud employer. I'm not going to vote for any of these options. I think they're both rubbish, and I'm going to vote against. Right? Here's your chance. Call a you know, have a bit, go and have a 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you like. Talk together. Come up with something. You've got the option. Do it. You're in control. It's your decision. It'll all fall down on you. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gurley Walker, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The constituents in Eastwood and Broxtowe do not want LGR, and I do not want LGR, but my commitment to them goes beyond political theatre, and I'll continue on protecting their interests, holding others and in the decision-making process to account and ensuring every decision delivers real value for our community. We all posted the petitions. We all promoted the survey. We all know the survey is not consultation. I've visited residents personally at their homes, and I'll be engaging with the Broxtowe Borough Council because they've asked to, in fact, I'll share the details. It's at Eastwood Town Council offices, Thursday the 4th of September at 6 p.m. It's a local government reorganisation engagement session for anyone that wants to be there. It's not a choice for us. However, language does matter and facts do matter. And there's a number of them on the other side of the aisle that don't seem to know that. The criteria has not changed since February. It hasn't changed. The Minister has not changed his stance on boundary reviews. He has not changed his stance. He has not changed his stance. Yeah, you pointed at a bit of paper. Well done. Clever. He's not changed his stance. That might be your interpretation. The facts remain. He has not changed his stance. If they believed their nonsense about option 2 and really had the residents in mind, they should have brought their evidence to us. And then, you know, it's called outreach. We have an open door policy. So why are you leaving it to do a last minute change on the day and then make all this political theatre, waste everyone's time posturing? Come and see us. We're all here. We care about the residents. You claim to. Come and see us. We don't need all of this. Sam, I can't let it go, mate. I'm sorry. Councillor Smith, sorry. You said the 30th of July you did campaign in Broxtowe the other week. You said clearly in a video, which is all over the place, that you would not put Nuttall and Strelley in with the city, and you voted for that the very same week. So that's not integrity, is it? I'll ask you if you'll apologise to the voters in Nuttall and Strelley for lying to them and cheating your way to a win in Broxtowe.
They're not bitter, are they?
Councillor Smith. To speak.
Calling somebody lying and cheating is not appropriate language. I spoke earlier about people on this side being appropriate language. I think you did the same before.
Yeah, can you reprimand him, Chairman?
Formal code of conduct complaint.
Yeah.
2:15.
I feel that this name calling is unnecessary and should not be allowed. So please, when I know you're all very, very passionate about this and have different points of view, but please, just remember. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, colleagues. Earlier in this chamber, I set out very clearly why option 2 is credible, fair and cost-effective route for Nottinghamshire to take forward. So I won't repeat in detail from that speech. But what I will say, the argument I made then is even more relevant now as we consider the recommendations put forward today by the Reform Group. I want to have a look at what the residents of Nottinghamshire can take from Reform's record in 6 months after the election. You promised to stop the boats, election pledge broken. Promised more GP appointments, election pledge broken. Promised more police officers on the streets, election pledge broken. Promised to reduce council tax, we haven't seen that yet, election pledge broken. And now this afternoon,
That is the topic that we should be discussing. Yeah. Okay. So let's just stop there. We're not name calling or.
No, I think he said name calling as well.
Yeah.
thank you, Chairman. And then we move on to local government reorganisation. In Broxtowe and Gedling, leaflets were put out, particularly recently, saying, vote Reform and we won't put you in the city. That's the latest election pledge broken, Madam Chairman. The only thing Nottinghamshire residents have so far received from councillors in Nottinghamshire is betrayal, betrayal, betrayal. And mark my words, Madam Chairman, voters will not forget this when they are next in the ballot box. And they didn't forget it last week either, did they, Councillor Gurley? Let's call option 1B and not on 1E what they are, Madam Chairman. They are absurd. And if they pass, Nottingham City, with either option, would become one of the largest rural cities in the country. Just pause and think about that for a minute. A rural city makes absolutely no sense. Our villages, our towns have nothing in common with the day-to-day pressures of running a major city. What does flooding in Burton Joyce or in Lamley, which Councillor Stoll represents, have to do with policing the late-night economy in Nottingham city centre? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. What has rural infrastructure in Kelverton got to do with city bus lanes and cycle lanes? Absolutely nothing. The point is that under option 1B and 1E, council tax from the rural areas that I have just mentioned will be funnelled towards problems that the residents who are paying that council tax did not create and do not experience. And make no mistake, this is going to cost local people dearly. Reform's proposals that are in front of us today means an immediate 7% council tax hike for residents in Gedling and Broxtowe. 7%, £120 extra in Gedling and £100 in Broxtowe for an average Band D property. Those aren't small numbers, Madam Chairman. They are weeks of heating bills, even more so after the terrible Labour government, and they are a weekly food shop. And for what? To prop up a failing, bankrupt Nottingham City Council. As I said earlier, the city have already been issued with 2 Section 114 notices. It's a history of reckless decision-making, and now Reform want to put Gedling and Broxtowe and maybe Rushcliffe residents into that sinking ship. This isn't just about money, it's about identity and accountability. People in Woodborough, Stoke Bardolph and Kimberley, they are proud of their communities. They currently have boroughs and district councils that reflect their priorities and their challenges. Under 1B and 1E, their voices will be totally drowned out in a chamber dominated by Nottingham City. Residents won't just pay more, they'll get less in return. That is what is being we're not anti-change either. We supported reorganisation when it was credible, and we had a credible option in option 2, keeping the county as one. But option 1B and 1E is just a land grab. It's a tax rise, it's betrayal of communities in Broxtowe, Gedling and Rushcliffe, and make no mistake, Madam Chairman, by voting against option 1B today, I am in no way, repeat, no way, endorsing option 1E. Rushcliffe must also be protected from the city. 1B and 1E would strip away a huge portion of Nottinghamshire's tax base and hand it to the city, while leaving the county with the greatest demand of people's services in Mansfield and Ashfield. The result is higher tax for everybody and worse services. So we need to vote down this recommendation, 1B and 1D. We need to look after the residents of Rushcliffe, Gedling and Newark, say no to these options in front of us and get round the table and let's start talking about boundary changes. The city could expand into its urban areas and we can keep the rural areas in Nottinghamshire and keep delivering good services for them. Vote this down and let's have an adult conversation in line with the Minister's amended framework which says boundary changes are possible. Let's get on with that and vote this down.
Councillor Kelvin Wright to speak.
As I mentioned before, it's always a pleasure listening to the Leader of the Opposition spout. I heard a lot of figures there about council tax rises and 7% and 120, this, that and the other. I just wonder, on the Leader of the Opposition, where's your crystal ball and where do you know that information is coming from? If you're going to put figures like that in the public domain, I'd like to see the data. In fact, I demand to see the data.
Councillor Cullen, please.
Is there no data? Sorry, Madam Chair. I take it there's no data to come back.
I have no data. I've not been given any.
Okay, stop arguing, everybody. It's my turn. Madam Chair. First of all, I'll make the point that we're deciding this before the results of the consultation, but it's been made before. So let me tell you, I'm not new to this. I'm not new to it at all. I've been a councillor for years and years and years. My husband even longer before me. And here we are at another reorganisation. It's not the first in my lifetime. But here we are at a reorganisation that is being imposed on us. And we're being told to choose between 3 options. And we keep hearing, we don't like these options. Being told to choose between 3 options is not a choice. It's called a trap. And it's not one I'm going to fall into, even if you want to. From the start, I have said that this back of a fag packet, rushed and ill thought out, short on detailed plan is not good enough. A decision this monumental deserves time, evidence, genuine public engagement, not a scramble to meet somebody else's false deadline. Let me be straight. We're being told if you don't make a choice, the government will impose one. So you must choose. Let me say it. If you don't make a choice, the government will impose the choice on you. Therefore, we must choose from a bad choice in order to avoid a bad choice being imposed on us. Does that make sense to you? Whichever way you dress it up, and no matter how many times the leader over there tells us we have no choice, residents are going to lose out. Because the options on the table are weak, underdefined, and there's no guarantee that there'll be any service improvements. And we even got this last week as the government themselves. The government last week admitted that they'd done no cost benefit analysis of LGR.
That's right.
Yet the report commits us to spending 28 million on option 1B. How many potholes is that filled in? No, thank you. I'm not supporting these recommendations. I'm not doing this. Firstly, because the process is rushed, undemocratic, uncosted and unaccountable.
Yeah.
The public don't want it. We know they don't. And to be honest, they don't know what it involves. And to be honest, most people in this chamber do not know what it involves either. The information that hasn't been provided. There's been no business case, no transition costing, no equality impacts, no service risk assessments, no plan for council tax or any other harmonisation. And secondly, the principle. For me, it's a principle. Everywhere in the world where local government works best, it's closest to the people. Whether it's Norway, Switzerland, Germany or anywhere else. The proximity of government to the people makes a difference. And this plan moves power further away from that.
Yeah.
It concentrates the decisions in fewer hands, not more. And that's the opposite of what residents continually tell us that they want. And thirdly, the performance and precedent. We're told this is a new authority. I'm sick of hearing the city will be a new authority. I bet you anything it will be called Nottingham something. And its offices will be the same offices. And its processes will be the same processes.
Yeah.
And you'll say it will be a new authority. And in a few years' time, I'll say, I told you so. And you'll go, oh, yeah, you did, didn't you? Yeah. It's not going to be a new authority. It's already a unitary. It will stay a unitary. And it's got a poor record of delivering the services. And how will they improve by just making it bigger? It needs, if we're going to do reorganisation, it needs a proper rethink. If you're going to make something better, start from scratch, not from sticking plasters. And fourth, you know, in all fairness, it's the poorest people in society that will pay the price for these years and years and years of disruption that this will bring us.
Yeah.
The poorest people will pay the price for this. Don't let anybody tell you that refusing a bad deal is somehow not businesslike. The most businesslike thing you could possibly do is say, this is a bad deal. We want a proper rethink of it.
30
We want to do
seconds,
it properly.
Councillor. 30
So,
seconds.
I mean, I'm saying, I know why Labour are trotting out this line, because they're being watched. They're being watched and they can only vote in a particular way. But I'm saying, where's your courage? We need to be brave enough to stand up to this and stand up for what we know people want us to do. We need to find our courage, demand that this is delayed while it's properly thought out. That's what we need to do. Thank you for listening to me.
Councillor Mann to speak, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, first I'd like to say thank you. I'm only a newly elected county councillor. I've only been a county councillor for just over 2 months. I'm very new to this, but I'm very passionate about it and I want the best for our residents. So in short, as reform councillors, we live in the real world. We don't live in an ideal world. Ideally, we'd all like to live in an ideal world, but we don't. So we're going on reality here. So we've studied Councillor Wright and Councillor Barton have been very supportive, as has the rest of the county councillors from Reform to myself since I've joined. And we've researched this to great length. We've had lots of meetings and researched all the options. And in reality, option 2 is a no-go. We've done our research on this and it shows it's a no-go because it doesn't fit the criteria. So we've been forced, none of us want to do this, we've been forced to make this decision of one of the 2 other options by the incompetent Labour government. So we've been forced to make it. Like I said, ideally we don't want to make that decision, but we have to make that decision, otherwise the Labour government will make that decision for us and then it's out of our hands, we don't have a say in it. So looking at all the different options, 1B is realistically the only option I will vote for, and I dare say my other Reform county councillors will do the same, because we're not going to waste our time or money voting for any other option what's going to be kicked out, which option 2 definitely will be, because like I said, we spent hours on researching this, so we know what we're talking about. So I, as one, I'm going to vote for 1B, as that is the only option realistically we can vote for. Thank you.
Councillor Seaman, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you, better than anyone else, know how much distress this has caused me. I actually owe LGR an awful lot. When the devolution white paper was released in December, we in Gedling were just getting ready to start our campaign. It was raised a few times in branch meetings. It was discussed and it was clear that feelings ran very, very high regarding this. So I saw a political advantage and I took it. I campaigned hard as my primary concern of local issues that I would resist LGR. Anyone that didn't know about it, I made sure on the doorstep they got to know about it. And it worked. Arnold North returned the highest reform result in Gedling. 5th of August, when the Nottingham Council released their statement that they will be asking for the members to support 1B, things took a rather sinister turn. My inbox lit up. I was getting mauled on social media. But you said this wouldn't happen. You said you'd vote against this. I'm trying to engage with them and say, I am but one voice in a chorus of 66. But I assured them, I gave them my word that I would be their voice. 21st of August, another rather sinister turn. There's a piece in the local media that suggests that myself and Councillor Lukacs would be suspended if we didn't vote for 1B. Madam Chair, can you imagine the relief when the following day a rebuttal was released where Councillor Mick Barton maintained that he was asking for his members to support him? Mick, you have my absolute support. Wait. You have my unwavering allegiance. But for me to continue that support out in my community, I need to maintain the respect and the trust of the people that put me here. For that reason, I can't support this motion.
Okay.
Councillor Gowland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think everyone understands that two-tier authorities don't work, including the Tories, over the last 10 years. Although maybe my view is jaundiced by living in Rushcliffe, the council that likes to say no, if it's so excellent, perhaps Councillor Clark, you could ask the council to engage with me on the 2 dangerous car parks in my area. I won't even go on about the ridiculous situation with rubbish collection and road verge maintenance. We all understand this. As Councillor Barton indicated, the whole situation is a mess, as many of the leaders of Nottinghamshire from earlier in the year, on all sides of the political spectrum, all sides, have let us down by playing silly political games. As people have said, this has been sent down from high, but we had a chance to make this work locally. But instead, our leaders left us in a situation with 2 bad options for short-term electoral advantage. Makes me despair, really, honestly. The city was set up to fail. Who 30 years ago designed a conurbation of the most needy parts of the area? It was going to fail, right? It was a ridiculous reorganisation, but it was a reorganisation at that time. I'm coming back to that. By the way, if you thought the city was so badly wrong for the last 30 years, you had an option. You could have stood for elections and tried to win there, right? You know, you didn't. As you didn't win. As Councillor Lawton helpfully explained, right now in Rushcliffe, as Councillor Lawton helpfully explained, right now in Rushcliffe, we give 80% of our council tax to Ashford and Mansfield. That's fine. We are Nottinghamshire. But we don't give that money to the city, right? Despite the fact that in West Bridgford, many of the workers actually live in the city. People running our services in West Bridgford live in the city. And that is exactly why we are here now. By the way, city residents pay for the trams too, and the Riverside Festival was cancelled by the Mellors Group at a few days' notice. So we're left with 2 bad options. Now, I agree, okay, whoever said it earlier, 1B may be better for the whole county, but I represent West Bridgford North, which is an urban and suburban area. And as Councillor Barton said, the report makes it clear, Plan B is designed to create 1 rural and 1 urban authority. A rural authority run from potentially 20 miles away from my area. So, Councillor Om, Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Upton, are you looking forward to explaining to your residents in future that our services aren't working locally as they've been designed to support rural areas? Have you noticed that it costs a lot more to collect dustbins in rural areas than it does in the city or in the suburbs? Are you going to explain to your residents why our council tax has to go up? I live in a city conurbation, and I know, because I know it's the most sustainable way to live, and that's what I want to do, because I'm not a farmer. I can't see the farmer, but I stood for election saying this, right? And I'm not going to let my residents down by literally voting them down the Trent with option 1B. That said, I do accept it's probably the best of the whole county. So what do I want? The convenient headline about the government not doing their homework right, although I wouldn't blame you for not realising it, because I would accept the government haven't explained it, is not actually what's happened. The County Council Network have confirmed the figures are not questionable. Money will be saved if the councils emerge sensibly. Their original report was from 2020 and updated in 2025. But given it's so obvious to everybody that getting rid of 2-tier councils is going to save money, there's no point the government giving PwC consultants even more money to prove that, to evaluate different options, when it has to be done locally, and that's what we've been doing for the last 6 months. The research had to be done at this level. So a report from the Council Network says 3 unitary authorities across the country would say lose 300 million, so that's not a good idea. 2 unitary authorities, like we're proposing here today, 1 billion saving. 1 unitary authority, 2.9 billion savings. Now, of course, it's not all about saving money. In some places, maybe 3 councils make more sense. But the PwC document first proposed for Nottinghamshire did suggest 1 unitary authority, Nottingham and Nottingham City, a single Nottinghamshire, which is what we had 30 years ago. Why was it rejected by our leaders? Why wasn't it even discussed? It would be large, yes, and we need good town and parish councils, but it would be easy to achieve because things could just be merged. And the solution would recognise we are 1 Nottinghamshire, as Councillor Stoll said, 1 cultural, economic and even environmental area.
Alan, 30 seconds.
And as you know what? We've existed since before the Doomsday Book. So I will be voting against this, but I don't think either option is correct. Thank you.
Councillor Chowdhury.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is new to me anyway, and I haven't got much politics in my blood, but I have a long history of serving British Empire. So today's is a history is making for the Nottinghamshire public. And we have been forced to deal with this matter now because reform is here. We're going to rule next 20 years and far on our imagination. Everything what opposition been mentioned today is all negative. So all of our colleagues, we're going to support 1B, and I'm with them all the way with the leader and all our colleagues. I represent Mansfield South, and what I'd like to ask, local government reorganization, what is benefit for all of us? And 2025, there is boundary changes, no boundary changes beyond that proposal. Suggest area, raise 500,000 or more. I have been leaned to forward option 1B as many as my colleagues. With the key decision due 2026 and 2028, and district council recommendation accepted to November 2025. And how do you ensure the process of delivery real progress for our community rather than just boundary change? And I believe for a short period, it's going to be difficult. And I think for the long period, Fit for the Future is going forward for this motion. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm now calling Councillor Adams to speak, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. What an interesting thing LGR has done to local politics. Who'd have thought a turquoise-coloured curtain would have formed its way around County Hall? You may have arrived here looking a little bit like skills coach drivers, I'm not going to lie, or maybe even selling an excursion somewhere. But we would not, hopefully not with the digging up the trunk, but you are now gently drifting away from company colours, now maybe realising it's not all about reform and have a whole council responsibility, a duty to back your residents. We've talked about the word residents a lot today. It's the most important word you'll hear during your tenure as a county councillor. Some of your councillors were very excited about my shoes and or lack of socks, which I believe has been a moment of entertainment from the last meeting. I am wearing socks today. Politically, Conservatives and Reform are not a million miles apart with our own county councillors, and I would say we all want to see secure borders, etc. We all want to see the end of the Labour Party, who from the jaws of victory and an extended time in Parliament have doomed themselves to a one-term legacy by literally screwing everybody over. Although saying that, I've seen a few policies that are quite similar between those two parties. The likes of the two-child cap removal, which is a big love of Jezza Corbyn. And also, obviously, the flag aspect, the nationalism aspect as well. So there's some interesting combinations there. Now, as far as going back to RGR for a second, I just want to talk about how much I love my country, my county, and my borough of Gedling, my union flag. In fact, I've got one on the front of my house. I had it before it was fashionable, which has happened very recently. And I'm glad that everybody is now doing that. I was sad to see the Prime Minister come out and say, with his very big glasses, don't use our flag to divide us. I mean, how dare that man say that? We should all be proud of our country. However, operationally, the administration here in this place, the difference between us is stark. I would argue it's been stark from some of the members that stood in county elections. We've heard from one earlier, which I think, again, you know, you're not be surprised to hear me say this, but I think it takes a lot of bottle to stand up and say that. So good for you, John. Good for you. All we hear so far from we've heard from Reform's leadership nationally has been around two-tier care, free speech must be maintained, etc. And yet, where you've got the power, you've removed free speech. LGR is worrying you, obviously. The paranoia is firmly set in across this new cabinet and must be a constant embarrassment to the backbenchers. I believe, having got to know a few of you, you'll be saddened by this show of fear. I was so concerned about it that I've even popped into the local B&M and put an additional tinfoil order in so you can wrap it around your rather panicked bonnets if you need to. There was a snowflake just went past the Now, Mick, my door's always open, but your pass is disabled, so you can't get in Barton. Maybe thinks it's a way to get your councillors to fall in line with you if you cut the press out of the equation. I'll cut off my communication lines to the public who elected me, maybe he thinks, will help me shove Gedling and Broxtowe into the city without criticism. Well, alas, we won't let that happen. Or, of course, he could be trying to stop his own councillors from having a voice. Now he has the power he always dreamed of as a Mansfield independent. But don't take these observations as negative. Every day is a learning day. And I offer advice. Instead of maybe doing a bit of aura farming, Notts County Council's YouTube is full of great examples from previous chairmen of how you act. Richard Butler, point in front.
Madam Chair, point of order.
In very important debates like
seems
LGR,
irrelevant. Not sure what.
In very important debates like LGR, thank you. I'll get to you in a minute, Councillor Stock. We need grown-ups in the room. They need better leadership. It's embarrassing. In fact, it's slightly on the weird side. Someone I know from the local front bench I mentioned earlier, MP Lee Anderson, was a big fan of this and said he supported having one unitary authority for the county. The reality, colleagues, is that we shouldn't be following a path of fear or protectionism or trying to hide behind this. You should be out talking to people. And just a point of order on Sam, he never worked in telesales. But also, is it really necessary to get into the personal life of a councillor? I don't know. Luckily, my leader and friend, Councillor Smith, like me, believes that we should have a free vote on this. And he wants to see, he believes that in this case, that the politics is not really important. And what's important is that we all back up the people that elected us into our positions. So I would love to see, as a leader,
30 seconds.
Thank you. And as a leader, you should be out there talking to the press. So please, get your big pants on and go out and make friends. And let's make this council a very public organisation that talks to its residents through the media that's present in here now. We shouldn't be hiding from them. We should be talking to them openly. Thank you very much indeed.
Just on the point of telesales, I have a text here sent by the Leader of the Opposition, December 2016. Transform the contact centre of over 150 agents from an unregulated environment to a regulated FCA compliant one. That's his work in telesales.
Can we please move on? I will deal with that. I will deal with it. Councillor Carr, please.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out, Madam Chairman, that there are plenty of people on this top table who should be keeping this, or are trying to keep this meeting in order, and they don't really need the help of people over there to do it for you. Thank you. Can I just absolutely say, I've had to rewrite this speech because of what Councillor Simmons has said. Somebody who's admitted, or not admitted, it was a good thing he was campaigning about, that he was totally against local government reform. And because of that, he cannot bring himself to support the motion today. Well done you. That's integrity. That is integrity. What I will ask is that the other reform councillors in Gedling and Broxtowe who did the same have the same integrity. We should wait and see. We should wait and see. I think reform as a whole are beginning to realise that being in power isn't easy. Never has been easy. There never have been simple answers to very complex matters. And I have to say now, the last thing that I thought I would see happen is for the Reform Party UK, or whatever they're called now, are willing to lie on their back and have their tummy tickled by a Labour minister. I never thought that I would see it. There is no reason, absolutely no reason why we have to make this decision now. No decision at all. I'm a proud member of another authority, Broxtowe Borough Council, who has said to the government at this stage, a plague on all your options. We don't like any of your options. So why can't we do the same? Why can't we do the same? Councillor Girling very eloquently pointed out that we have time. We still have time. There's no way in this world that they're going to get everything through by May 27. No way. So those people, I'm going to cut this short because what I will say is that if Broxtowe and Gedling Reform councillors vote for this today, the people of Broxtowe will never forget that betrayal. And you can forget winning any seats in Broxtowe or Gedling in 2027 or when the election is, because the feeling out there is very, very strong, vehemently anti, and they will not forget it. So please, Gedling and Broxtowe Reform councillors have the same integrity and courage as Councillor Simmons and vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cox, please.
Madam Chair, I, unlike the great lady over there, I'm fairly new to this, and it seems I follow you every time on this one. And forgive me, I'm reading from the phone. I've been making notes throughout this afternoon, and it's to do with the Conservatives again. Many years they've had to sort this problem out. Many years. To get their heads around the local government review. Many years of meetings, reports, chin stroking. And what they come up with? Option 2. An option that they themselves threw out years ago. You couldn't make this up. After all that time, they're literally recycling their own rejects. If this is their idea of fresh thinking, I dread to see what they call progress. How can anyone take them seriously when their best new plan is their own old bin bag? They've had more flip-flops on the beach in Benidorm. This change is being forced upon us, and the option of not submitting an option is not an option. We have to deal with it, and it's that, or then the areas that are forced upon us. If we don't deal with it, we'll have it forced upon us, and those options really are not good. So, we will lead from the front and take these upcoming challenges head on. And as my old core motto says, exemplo ducimus, by example, we will lead. I will be supporting option B1. And just to clarify from a few of the Conservatives that mentioned this, mentioned Lee Anderson MP, it is interesting to see that Lee Anderson MP spends a great deal of time rent-free in some of your heads. Thank you.
Councillor Robertson. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I make progress on the LGR points, I just want to talk about the colleagues across the chamber who are talking in support or considerations of areas that will be affected by this, i.e. the ones that could be merged with the city. And what I've seen, both from our side and this side to some degree, is that the debate's been vociferous and they've vehemently stood for the rights and the benefits of their residents. Councillor Siemens with great integrity there. So it's a bit of a fractious debate, I understand that, but there's been some really good points brought forward, and I just hope that we can really keep this debate about the residents, not political point scoring. My first point about this, going on to score some political points, is to highlight that the Labour government have imposed LGR upon us, and they've set the timetable, which I believe is too short and too challenging given the scale of the changes proposed. This was done without manifesto pledge, and it's been done on the basis of no internal review. The BBC on the 29th of August, and in the paper that Councillor Wilmot highlighted, was that the Secretary of State, Angela Rayner, didn't actually get any credible, relevant, up-to-date data, but took some PwC data from 2020 to justify the steps that were determined in 2024 and then imposed upon us. I would therefore suggest that we must have some concern about how 3M's Rayner will manage the process should we on the council not take control of the Nottinghamshire narrative. My worry is if we don't come around an agreed position that we can strongly advocate for with government, they will follow the city narrative, which is to see boundary changes carving up Broxtowe, Gedling and Rushcliffe. And I hope across the chamber we can agree that is something we do not want to see. I'm never satisfied just accepting council officers' information, so I sought to do some research myself. The County Councils Network updated their study in 2025, surprisingly, so Angela could have looked at that, in conjunction with the PwC, and what they found was that there are critical numbers to actually make an LGR work, which is 500,000. And they actually advocated that this should be a minimum number. However, Jim McMahon's letter on the 25th of June, I believe, seemed to relax this target number of residents within a unitary authority, which clearly shows that they're not looking at available data and advice. I think this shows the government lacks basic capability and credibility, and we should not trust this process to them without us having a strong position on it. The CCN and PwC's updated findings also highlight that the numbers of residents below 500,000 might not just risk savings through LGR, but could actually cost taxpayers money through transition costs and costs of disaggregation of services to multiple separate unities. The chair of the CCN, Councillor Tim Oliver, who is the Conservative leader of Surrey County Council, states the following: "We remain concerned over the potential costs of reorganisation where proposals seek to replace the two-tier system with multiple small unitary councils. The CCN's recent report showed that splitting county areas into unitary councils with populations as small as 300,000 will create unsustainable new costs for local taxpayers." So, taking all this into account and the fact that the government haven't looked at the relevant data and what the CCN and with the help of PwC have found, I believe that we cannot trust the government with this process, and we need to have the strongest option supported by credible data. Considering all that, having reviewed the council reports, the CCN, PwC data, and speaking to colleagues from across the area, across the county, I believe that 1B or 1E would give us that strong possible position that we can then take to government and debate. And as Councillor Brill pointed out, it actually gives us an opportunity with credible data to potentially challenge any backdoor deals by the government through a potential judicial review, which I think is very, very important. Thank you. I therefore say that I will back 1B because I think it's the strongest of these options. I do have one concern though, which is the introduction of more boundaries into the county.
I've found in my short time as a councillor that crossing authority boundaries when it comes to transport or agreeing joined-up investment to benefit the geography rather than the authority can often throw up significant challenges. I would therefore ask that members and officers are alive to this challenge and ensure that LGR does not bring about further difficulties for residents. Thank you.
Councillor Lukacs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's fairly safe to say that nobody in these chambers want LGR. I just want to make it known that my heart and my soul stands with the residents, those people that from Arnold North who elected Councillor Siemens and myself to represent them as reform councillors. The decision was made prior to us being elected, and as reform councillors we've inherited this from our predecessors, and it's being imposed upon us by a Labour government. As a reform county councillor, I believe I have a better voice for my residents with Reform UK behind me. I cannot agree with this decision, yet I cannot not disagree with this decision. Therefore, it is with a heavy heart and sadness that I do endorse 1B.
Councillor Gamble, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've heard lots of negativity, doom and gloom all today. Let's focus on some of the positivity with local government reorganisation. Right? I can see where my residents are going to benefit in Sherwood Forest, so I'm going to focus on Sherwood Forest for now, so bear with me. I want to talk to you what I call about the Great District Council disconnect. Time and again, residents come to me with their problems, but they're always district or borough council problems, and those problems are never dealt with. Those residents then vent their frustration with the county councillor. I'll give you an example. Let's take Newark and Sherwood District Council. We've got some Newark and Sherwood District councillors there. Right. Previously it was Conservative, now it's Labour. They have waived so many solar farm applications that have blanketed our Newark and Sherwood District Council. I'm talking, don't interrupt me. Which point of order. Our farmland and historic landscape character. We've lost biodiversity. We've lost wildlife through these solar farm applications. Now, residents are losing their countryside. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Councillor Lee has a.
I was enjoying that.
Yeah.
Chairman, that's disrespectful. Pointing and the noise was just unacceptable. If he can't talk with reasonable adult, then he doesn't need to be in this chamber.
What? What? With all due respect, that's what we all need.
Yes.
Oh.
Right.
I don't think that was a point of order, Councillor Lee.
Okay.
So please continue.
Maybe I've taken a leaf out of Sam Smith's book with the volume control. Yes, okay, right. I'm not a thespian that Sam is, so I'm just full of passion. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be elected. Thank you. It's the same problems with housing. I get so many residents come up to me with housing issues. They want to be relocated. They're on the housing ladder, but they're actually seeing people being put in housing that have got no connection with the village, no connection with the parish, no connection with the county. In fact, some of them got no connection with the country or the continent. So,
sorry, that's just not true, Madam Chairman. Point of clarification. Asylum seekers and refugees are not housed in public housing. End of. Anything else is just winding people up. Winding people up.
Councillor Carr, I think you've misunderstood. And unacceptable.
Okay, right, thank you. So, under reorganisation, the County Council will take charge of planning, and the reform-led County Council will say no to reckless building. And it's not just the big issues, even the small issues I'm finding problems with. I've got one resident in a little village that's having to deal with Nottinghamshire District Council. All they want is a drop curb, but to access their driveway, they've got to, let me carry on. This is all relevant. It includes planning. All they need to do is drive across a tiny fraction of Nottinghamshire land to access their driveway, but Nottinghamshire District Council will deny them that drop curb. Right, so that's why local government reorganisation is going to work, and it's why Reform UK at Nottinghamshire County Council are going to make it work, because we overcome the District Council disconnect. Under Reform County Council, the solar sprawl that is devastating the impact on our farming, our rural communities and our habitats, we will not permit those applications. We will not sacrifice our farmland, our villages, our historic character for lazy planning and box ticking. No more buck passing, no more confusion, a council that delivers. That's what Reform deserve, that's what residents deserve, and that's what Reform UK will deliver. Thank you very much.
Chairman, point of order.
Councillor Lee. Councillor Lee. Oh, sorry.
Chairman, he might be aware that as he's just shown preference on planning for future, he's just predetermined himself on any planning committee.
And your whole party.
Councillor Lawton, your time to speak.
In Kent, Reform's illustrious leader, Nigel Farage, promised to fight LGR tooth and nail, calling it absolutely insane. And I agree with him. He even urged Kent County Council to hold a referendum and pledged to launch a campaign to raise public awareness. So where are we today? Councillor Siemens, you made me rewrite my speech. You're a bit like the man at the back there who's 63-year-old. You're looking well, by the way, for 63. Yeah, you just made me rewrite this. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. You cannot stand for an election on a manifesto promise and then break that manifesto promise. Because if you do, you lose all credibility as a councillor. And anybody that thinks otherwise is completely and utterly wrong. Yeah, completely and utterly wrong. So, Councillor Brill, you're again. I'm agreeing with somebody else in Reform here. You're absolutely right. What will happen is, Council 1BI will be thrown in the bin. It will actually be sent to the bin, because all that will happen is the minister will listen to the city. And whatever the city wants, the city will get. And we are debating a subject here today, and there is not a cat in hell's chance, in my view, of the minister accepting any proposal that's coming from Nottingham County Council, particularly since Reform has taken over, because you are the Antichrist, as far as they are concerned. And it will take absolutely no notice of you whatsoever. Nagat has the control of this process. That's what happens. Nagat has the control. So, unfortunately, political expediency is taken over, to a certain extent. We can see it a mile off. The people with the grey hairs can see what game you're playing. We understand what game you're playing. We understand the political machinations of Gedling and Broxtowe going into the city. We're not daft. And so please do not try to pull the wool over our eyes. Mick, you said just on Reform to deliver. Well, I've been around this council now for 5 months and you haven't delivered anything yet. apart from sacking 2 park wardens who have got 40 years experience in the Bestwood Country Park. Yeah. You've done that.
Point of clarification.
But just,
point of clarification. Point of clarification. Point of clarification.
That sounds good.
Wait, stop you. Sorry.
I would like him to clarify what he's just made. I went to where we'd sacked anybody. I would like some clarification. Like one of my colleagues has said, it must be true if it's in the Nottingham Post. I'll send you a video as well.
After that, I don't think I need to respond to that. Right. So
it's just nonsense.
So again, I'm looking at grey hairs here. I've been around a long time, and what I can tell you is, and I told you when I was talking to the amendment, 1BI or 1B will not, or BI or whatever you want to call it, will not work. It didn't work in 1974, and it won't work now. And the rationale behind that is because the city is incapable of running rural areas. It can't run rural areas. So it can't deal with the likes of the problems that people in Burton Joyce have, that people in Calverton, people in Ravenshead. They just do not understand how these people operate on a day-to-day basis. The classic was Mansfield District Council decided it was going to collect the brown bins in Newark and Sherwood. It lasted 3 months. Because Mansfield District Council looks after an urban area, couldn't understand how it takes, but the time it takes to get from A to B, and the whole thing broke down. And to be fair, the city also understand that. The best idea, the only option, is the donut. And we cannot send these residents down a path of a lack of service. It's absolutely important. I'm going to say it again. You are a corporate parent.
30 seconds, Councillor Lawton.
You are a corporate. Stop being led by the nose. You're being led by the nose. Listen to what these people are saying time and time again. Listen to what your own members are saying. Stop being led by the nose, Madam Chairman. Good name.
Councillor Bingham, please.
Thank you. I'll try and be a little bit calmer, Madam Chair. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm someone who believes in government of the people, by the people, for the people. We've inherited this problem and/or opportunity from previous administrations, national and regional. So we're having to deal with it, basically. And as we know, Labour passed the English devolution bill only last December, so this is an urgent matter in terms of the timescales that have been set. It was mentioned by Councillor Girling that we could look at other boundaries, things like that. But the one thing is these timescales are set in concrete, and we are therefore compelled to comply, or we'll have something imposed on us, which none of us want. So, moving on from that, there's been some assumptions. I'll try and speed through where we've been and where we might go. Some assumptions about unitaries and the control that councils are having, talking about City, for example, as Labour-led. Well, nobody knows with the unitaries exactly whose control that is going to end up with. But we're going to have something imposed, so we need to seize the day, so to speak. One of the issues that comes out of the unitaries, of course, is there'll be 2 in Nottinghamshire, 2 in Derbyshire, but there will be MCA sitting over it all. MCA is currently recruiting a lot of civil servants. I'm guessing, I don't know this for sure, that there will be a lot of non-local and maybe even London-centric civil servants. And if we want to maintain control with local people, members and officers, then we need to do something. I don't believe that the do-nothing strategy in the current circumstances is viable. We need to be in charge of that change. We need to be in the driving seat. Got a noise in my ear.
I think, can we just have one person speaking, please, at a time?
Yeah. So I think that to go for option 1B, and I know there's been a lot of time, money, effort, etc., spent on analysing options, and it's always going to be expensive. I know when people like PwC, KPMG are mentioned, but they have been analysed, and the most viable solution out of the options has been selected. I think it was Councillor Lee that spoke about, not then, Councillor Lee spoke about the detail that we need to address. And again, and I know we've discussed this, that there is a lot of detail to put on the flesh, on the bones of this skeleton. So a lot of flesh to put on the bones of the skeleton. So it's a big challenge, but it's also an opportunity because, and I hear what has just been said about Nagat. I don't know Nagat except the current mayor of Nottingham or leader of Nottingham City, but if they're not in control of their own council at the moment, and we are going to be having unitary elections, again, we don't know how that will fall. We do believe that the Labour government will prefer Labour councils, for example, but they have a lot of MPs. So if there was a switch funding from Nottinghamshire, for example, they're exposing their MPs. This has been neatly timed, hasn't it, politically, to have the restructuring before the scheduled general election. I don't think they'll get that far, but so. Yeah, that's the way things are. We're living in a reality today, and I think we've got to seize the day, as I said, and go with option 1B. That's really all I've got to say. There's a lot of work to do, but I'm going to be backing going with option 1B today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor. Much appreciated.
Okay, well, I wanted to speak because something that Councillor Lawton just said really resonated with me. When he said, what the city wants, the city will get. And I believe if we vote to endorse option 1B today, we will be able to stop that. If we start messing around now at this late stage with boundaries and trying to rehash another option, we're going to be far too far behind in the game. So if we endorse option 1B today, then the work that's going to be done between now and November will help us put the building blocks together to build a smoother transition for Broxtowe and Gedling and their residents into their new unitary, whilst also working for the new unitary, which is the other members of the current county council. So for those reasons, I will be endorsing and voting for option 1B today.
Madam Chairman, just point of personal explanation. I'm afraid I've had a message from home. I've got to go. I just wanted to clarify to you, I'm not going because I don't want to vote. I thought it was all going to be finished by now, but I do really have to go. So my apologies.
Councillor Pascio, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So unless I'm mistaken, today we've been asked to approve the development of a full proposal for future consideration. There are a lot of details that we don't know and that need to be explored. The constant spreading of disinformation and false or unproven claims has been embarrassing, not just today, but for months, especially on social media. There will be no takeovers, no mergers, there's no evidence council tax will shoot up. What happens to assets and debts hasn't been decided yet. If you were to design local government today, you wouldn't design the system as it stands in its current form. How can it be the best way of working that you have one council, the county council, as the waste disposal authority, but all the district and borough councils collect the waste? How many emails bounce between residents and one authority and another, trying to identify whose responsibility it is to prune a hedge impeding a footpath? And how is it a borough council's responsibility to sweep the leaves from the side of a road, but the county council's responsibility to unblock the drain once said leaves have fallen inside it? It's these quirks of the two-tier system that render it unfathomable to many of the residents who we serve and who email me. A simplified system could streamline service delivery and improve accountability. Furthermore, councils are already working in partnership and sharing services. It makes sense for there to be a change. There are many questions that still need to be answered, not least about local government funding from central government. My priority is that we deliver good services to all of our residents. I can tell you I've only received one email ever from a resident about local government reorganisation in my role as a county and borough councillor. I don't believe that there is the wide-ranging uproar that some councillors say there is. And if there is, it's often based on the disinformation put out by some parties. Agreed. It's the responsible thing to do today to put one option forward for development. I would rather be involved in the conversation than have LGR done to us. Based on the options on the table, I will be supporting option 1B at this stage. However, I do also have a lot of sympathy for the case that my colleagues have made about the whole conurbation being in the same authority. And I do wish that had been put forward earlier so it could have been developed. Thank you.
And I think finally, Councillor Barlow, please, to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've sat here today and I've listened to a whole chamber, different parties, different things. The one thing that strikes me is there are a lot of us here that are new councillors and we're making a very serious decision as new councillors with not much experience of this. I think we're rushing into this and therefore I won't be supporting 1B. I also would like to just clarify something that Councillor Gamble said when he was slating Nottinghamshire District Council on the solar farms. I can assure you we are fighting solar farms, as your Councillor Bingham will clarify, because we've had various discussions about it. Nottinghamshire District Council are not supporting them, are not happy to lose all the farmland, so you're actually wrong on that. And when we actually approached members of your party to assist, Richard Tice especially, he declined. So how much are your party supporting the solar farms? Just say, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John.
I just felt today, because it's quite an important decision to be made, it's important that I highlight for not just for my division, Blythe and Harworth, but also as Cabinet member for Education and SEND. So out of the population that we have here of almost 850,000, 20% of those are children, and then of that amount, 11%, just under, are with SEND needs. And I know there's a lot of concern as to the future of our services, but I might be an anomaly, I don't know, amongst my own party, but I do think this is a positive thing, local government reorganisation, because I feel that it would help to create seamless provision when it comes to education SEND across the board and nationwide. Consistency, it will be more economically viable, I think, in the long term. I know that it's going to take a bit of a knock to council tax funds, but in the long term, I think it could be a positive thing, especially with our growing population. And we're not under any disillusion that that is an issue when it comes to financially funding our services. So when it comes to education and SEND, the government have stated in their English devolution empowerment bill that there will be more funding coming our way if we do go through to this LGR with the LGR. So that is a positive, and I did want to highlight that, especially for the parents and carers who are listening today. And also the only concern that I have, and I think Councillor Bingham's already brought it up, is the concern of devolution. It talks about devolution, but with MCA, I do think across the chamber, we do need to make sure that we preserve the voice of the people, that we are a voice and that we have representation and accountability as well. That's really important. And so that's the only point that I wanted to make. And yeah, I'll be voting for 1B, of course.
Councillor Saddington, you wish to speak?
I do, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to make a point about Sherwood Forest, which you referred to. I am a Newark Sherwood District Council member and also on the Planning Committee. And I do ask that you get your facts correct. If you're talking about the great solar farm, which is to circle 14 villages, it is not going to be decided by Newark Sherwood District Council. It has already gone to the Planning Inspectorate. So you can't sit there and blame Newark Sherwood District Council without actually explaining what you're talking about.
Order.
Point of clarification. Sue Saddington talks about an NSIP, which is a national strategic project. I'm talking about solar farms that we've already got in our Newark and Sherwood farmland, the ones which were under 5 megabits of 50 megawatts. We've got them in Ekring, we've got them in other villages. They're the solar farm applications that were submitted and permitted by Newark and Sherwood District Council. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, not
clarifying that point.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just a point of order in relation to Constitution point 70. I know emotions are running high on this debate, but planning applications for solar farms in Newark and Sherwood Forest isn't really relative to the discussion about local government reorganisation. So I didn't. I'm just raising a point of order. I'm raising a point of order that we are not speaking of the discussion that we are actually here to do. So I would ask if we could tail that so we could get on with business.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Sorry. I'm now going to ask if Councillor Martin Wright, who has reserved his right to speak, wishes to speak now.
Yes, please, Chair. I won't keep everybody too long because I think it's all been said, some good points, some bad things, some passionate points. But many of the views that have been exchanged today in this chamber about LGR, and it's honest to say, there's not many of us have faith in the whole shebang, really. I must congratulate our officers who have worked tirelessly to work both options that we're considering now, 1B or 1E, if you like, and keep members updated with the story so far. And we've explained to Reform members which is the best in their view. We have to take professional advice, and we're happy to do so. We would rather not be here doing this. We would rather have something that we've been involved with creating, but now, between now and November, we should be more heavily involved. One of the recommendations in the report today is for cross-party engagement sessions. Please, please, please get involved with these. Put these points to these sessions and we'll see where we go from there. Delving back into history, I've been quite annoyed sitting here listening to the party over there saying or blaming another district council or another district councillor for scuppering the last attempt to bring LGR to this county. That was scuppered about 5 years ago when I was in the county hall chamber with a colleague who now departed, Councillor Vaughan Hopewell. We voted in the chamber against that full county unitary. That's the way it ended up. You lost, you're bitter, and you're the nasty party now, not us. Please support 1B. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I call on Councillor Mick Barton for your right to reply.
Chairman, you keep saying you don't want names to be called. Could you call out your own side, please?
Can I carry on, Chairman?
Can't take it at all.
Shall I sit down again?
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your patience. Firstly, I'd like to thank officers for all the help and advice they've given me over the last 4 months. I must pick a few things up first. I'm really proud to be your leader.
Thank you, mate.
I'm really proud to be your leader. I support you. I've run through a brick wall for you, know that. This has been the toughest thing I've ever had to deal with. I've been a councillor 22 years, but there's been a few things said over there. First of all, Councillor Lord, you are an experienced councillor, but for you to say over this side of the chamber, it's a game, you're so far off the mark. It's incredible. We've dealt with this as professional people. We're all professionals in our daily life. We've dealt with this as professional councillors since day one. Just remember, the government that you sit under brought this in 10 years ago. 10 years you've had to deal with this. We've done it in 4 months. It's incredible. And then you went on to say, you've been in 4 months, I don't know what you've done. But when you go home tonight, have a think what's been said today, because 1B is going through. And we've delivered LGR for Nottinghamshire. Councillor Lee, you made a point about engagement. And there will be engagement, future engagement. There'll be a cross-party group to sort out all the detail. That's in the pack, and that was in my speech this morning. It's
just a point of explanation.
Just hold on. Just hold on. You admitted it. You chose to admit it. It put a smile on my face earlier. You brought it up, but in your option 2 today, you drew a line through it. You didn't want cross-party. In your option 2, it's drawn out. That Sam Smith put forward, it's drawn out. So you don't want cross-party. I did.
Point of order, point of personal explanation.
Anyway,
to be clear, we aren't
clock?
agreeing LGR today. What we're agreeing is to go and look at a financial option. We're not agreed anything today. It's up to the national government to agree an option. All we're doing is saying what we prefer. You've not agreed or done anything. You're just telling the government what you want to do.
Right.
What about residents?
To sum up,
councillors.
My group and I never wanted LGR. I've been a very proud local councillor for 22 years. When this all comes in, I'm not going to be a district councillor. Due to the poor leadership of the previous administration, it was deemed to be the first thing we dealt with in our new term of office. 4 months in, couldn't be ignored any longer and hoping it would go away, because it was never going to go away. As a group, this has not been an easy road to travel, as it affects some areas more than others. The cold hard facts are that if we choose an option, soon it fits the Labour government's criteria, one will be chosen for us. No one knows how that will look and how it will affect our residents, but at least opting for 1B, it gives us a choice and the best chance to hold on to our assets and make a brighter future for the people living and working throughout Nottinghamshire. Despite this difficult decision, along with the unjustified bad press we have all endured, reform has risen to the challenge. And with the full support of the group, we have stayed strong and united, which you have all seen today. The decision had to be made, and a strong leader of a robust group, I am making the decision to opt for 1B. I have taken advice and looked at all the other evidence provided by officers, leaders and the PwC. We have looked at alternative options, however, they would not be accepted by the Minister. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? We can't control that. What we're doing here today is controlling what we can control. As they did not meet the guidelines for the criteria laid out by the Labour government. In summing up, I look to Councillor Sam Smith, and his group and say, shame on you for misleading your residents. I won't use the word lying, whilst kicking the issue into the long grass for political gain. I refer to your ability to make decisions. In my earlier words around the Conservative voting over the last 10 years. It shows you how they think and how they have tried to pull the wool over the eyes of the people that voted for them and put them in that position. Well, at least Reform can look to themselves in the mirror, knowing that we have dealt with the elephant in the room instead of cowering behind elections and untruths. Reform were elected. Reform were elected to eradicate false promises and make changes for better and make a stronger, more promising future for Nottinghamshire, and that is exactly what we intend to do.
The LGR decision is one of the most challenging and probably the hardest decisions that will be made by a reform group and everybody in this chamber. We have said so many things to consider: what we gain, what we lose. For us, it is about how we build on making this decision. Our intention as a group is to take this unitary authority and make it a great one. Make it a fantastic one and be proud of it. Ensure it gives our residents what they ask for. Make sure services are not just sustained, but improved. My goal is, and my group's goal, is to make sure the new authority is an exemplar authority and a council to be proud of. It needs to be fit for purpose, transparent, well run, and most importantly, what the people need. And we all live in Nottinghamshire. We're part of that people, and they deserve from our county authority. I ask my fellow councillors to look at the facts laid out before them today and report and think what's best for Nottinghamshire. Sam, you and your predecessors need to realise the effective leader has a shared vision aligned with empathy, core values they understand, and what it takes to reach them goals. They inspire, manage and support their teams to work creatively and confidently towards a shared vision. And most importantly, not afraid to take and make the hard decisions we're doing here today. I now put my recommendations forward to council as in the pack, and that is that this council considers the options appraisal and summary prepared by PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC was all known by, on behalf of the 9 councils. 2, approves the development of a full proposal based on option B for the future and consideration of full council ahead of the submission to government on the 29th of November 2025. And 3, approves a proposal for a cross-party member engagement sessions to inform the development of the full proposal. I thank you and I would like a recorded vote. Thanks everybody.
Councillors, we need 10 people for a recorded vote. So I think we've got far more than that. Yeah.
Okay, members, thank you. As ever, if I can ask you to use your microphones, speak clearly as to whether you are for, against or abstain on the substantive motion as reported in your council pack. We'll start with Councillor Mike Adams.
Against.
Councillor Adekoke.
For, please.
Councillor Answer.
For.
Councillor Barlow.
Against.
Councillor Barton. Councillor Bingham.
For.
Councillor Brill.
For.
Councillor Andy Brown.
For.
Councillor Kevin Brown.
For.
Councillor Richard Butler.
For.
Councillor Steve Carr.
Against.
Councillor Chowdhury.
Favour for.
Councillor David Clark.
For.
Councillor John Clark. Councillor Clooney.
Abstain.
Councillor Cotty.
For.
Councillor Cox.
For.
Councillor Cullen.
Against.
Councillor Darrington.
For.
Councillor Dodd.
For.
Councillor Faccio.
For.
Councillor Gamble.
For.
Councillor Girling.
Against.
Councillor Gould.
For.
Councillor Gowland.
Yes.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor John.
For.
Councillor Justice.
For.
Councillor Lawton.
Against.
Councillor Lee.
For.
Councillor Limber.
For.
Councillor Lukacs.
For.
Councillor Mann.
For.
Councillor Mason.
For.
Councillor Matthews.
For.
Councillor McCormack.
For.
Councillor Om.
For.
Councillor Pearson.
For.
Councillor Pepper.
For.
Councillor Rawson.
For.
Councillor Rich.
For.
Councillor Robertson.
For.
Councillor Saddington.
Against.
Councillor Siemens. Councillor Smith. David Smith, apologies. Councillor Sam Smith. Councillor Stoll.
For.
Councillor Upton.
For.
Councillor Vernon. Councillor Walker-Gurley.
For.
Councillor Wheatcroft.
For.
Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Wilmot. Apologies, couldn't hear.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Kelvin Wright.
For.
Councillor Martin Wright.
For.
Councillor Simon Wright. Okay, folks, bear with us. We'll top that up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 40 odd. 40 odd, that's it. 40 odd. Be official in a minute.
We haven't finished yet. Do you mind taking your seats? Would you like me to take that paper away from you?
I've already got one, so very good.
No. No, it's rubbish.
So 43, 4, 11 against, 1 abstention. The motion is carried.
Right. So here we go. 4, 43 for, 43. Against, 11. Abstentions 1. So thank you everyone for attending today, and also to all of those viewing online. This meeting is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.